Good day, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this important panel to discuss this important subject. My name is Laurie Chen. I'm a professor and Canada researcher in toxicology and environmental health at the University of Ottawa in Canada. The topic we want to talk about is about how the health of the oceans and affect the health of the foods and the health of the peoples. Of course, we know that we are what we eat, so our identity, our culture, our health are all somehow related to our food. The FAO results show that about 20% of the global populations derive about one-fifth of their animal protein from fish. So fish is very important to many people around the world. And more importantly, we know that about 1,900 coastal indigenous communities living in 87 countries around the world, or a total about 27 million people. Even though they consume 2% of the commercial catch, they rely heavily on seafood for their maintaining their diet and health. Why seafood is important to health? Of course, seafood also contains a lot of essential nutrients. For example, the omega-3 fatty acids, which is very important to the growth of our brain and also the health of our hearts. In the other thing is that in many of the indigenous communities, they are facing a major diet transition problem. The problem is that the alternative food that they have instead of just fish are usually very poor quality and non-perishable, just like these bread and corn chips and things like that. So a switch from the traditional healthy seafoods to these non-perishable foods can cause a lot of chronic diseases as well. The health of the oceans, of course, is determined by many factors. One of them is global pollution and also local pollutions. So the release of chemicals in the oceans will affect the health of the fish and the quality of the food as well. The other threat, of course, is climate change. My colleague William Jung has published this paper a few years ago, looking at the potential impacts of seafood harvest in coastal First Nations or indigenous communities in British Columbia. So he generally predicted a substantial decline of many of the important fish species along the BC coast. So based on these results, we started a project working with the coastal First Nations, looking at how the climate change will impact the seafood harvest in more details and related to the human nutrition and public health issues as well. So we started with looking at the calculating the impact of climate change from William's modeling results on the nutrient intake among these different First Nations. This graph on the top left panel shows that the different seafood like sockeye salmon, halibut, Chinook salmon, herring, coho salmon, etc., contribute to a high percentage of the nutrient requirement. For example, you can see that sockeye salmon contribute over 40% of the omega-3, EPA, and DHA intake, and also about over 40% of the vitamin B12 of the intake of the people as well. So when we use Williams' model to predict the impact of percentage loss of seafood in their diet, you can see that there will be substantial loss in different projected scenario in things like omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin B12 and selenium as well. And then we use, based on this reduction in nutrient intake, we calculate what might be the potential increase in risk in the myocardial infarctions like heart failure or heart attack among First Nations in BC. So we found that if the decline of fish populations translate into the decline of food use or seafood consumption, we will see a 1 to 2% increase in heart attack risk, higher in males than females. But more importantly, in the age group higher than 50, of course, these are the age group that has the highest incidence of heart diseases. The increase in heart failure rate increased by 5 to 6%. So this is a significant increase in the heart disease failure if the prediction of decline in fish harvest translate into a decline of fish use. So in general, in summary, we can see that a loss of traditional food system like loss of seafood in the diet either because of changes in density or any other concerns in the environment or decrease in harvesting will result in many direct and indirect health impact. For example, loss in cultural morality, loss in dietary quality and diversity, increase in sedentary life, and also loss in culture and specific food as well. That will result in becoming risk factors of many diseases like obesity, diabetes, alcoholism, heart diseases, anemia, tooth loss, infections, and even cancer. So the prevention of all these loss of traditional system is important. That's why we are working closely with them to try to develop adaptation strategy to protect the seafood system. We may have to remember that food is not just a linkage between the healthy oceans and healthy people. There's also a human rights issue as well. Having safe and healthy food is an important human rights issue. So this is something that we all need to strive on and working in collaborations with the participating First Nations or the indigenous communities around the world to protect our ocean and protect the food systems and protect the health of the people. Thank you very much.